Most people who eat eggs every day think they're just getting a cheap source of protein. They're wrong. Eggs are one of the most powerful fat-burning tools in human nutrition, and the science behind why is more specific, more surprising, and more actionable than almost anything you've heard before. This is what actually happens to your body when you eat eggs every day by day, week by week, month by month, and why the people who understand this biology lose fat faster, keep it off longer, and do it without counting a single calorie. Before we get into the timeline, you need to understand what makes eggs different, because it's not just the protein, it's the specific combination of nutrients inside a whole egg that triggers a cascade of hormonal, metabolic, and cellular changes that almost no other food can replicate. Strip any one of those elements out, cook it the wrong way, buy the wrong type, eat only the white, and you lose most of the benefit. We'll cover all of that. But first, let's start at day 1. Days 1 through 3. This is where the first change happens, and most people don't see it coming. Your hunger drops. Not slightly, significantly. The constant pull toward snacking, toward something sweet mid-morning, toward eating again 2 hours after breakfast, it quiets. And there's a precise biological reason for that. When you eat eggs in the morning, they suppress ghrelin, your primary hunger hormone, more aggressively than almost any other breakfast food tested in clinical research. At the same time, they elevate two satiety hormones, PYY and GLP-1. GLP-1 is the same hormone that pharmaceutical companies are spending billions trying to replicate synthetically in drugs like semaglutide. Eggs trigger it naturally. The result is that people eating eggs for breakfast consume an average of 400 fewer calories over the rest of the day, without trying, without tracking, without willpower. They simply aren't as hungry. And here is what most people don't know. That hunger-suppressing effect doesn't fade after a few hours. Research shows it can persist for up to 36 hours. One egg breakfast on Monday morning is still modulating your hunger biology on Tuesday. When you add that up across a full week, you're looking at a meaningful caloric deficit created entirely by one breakfast swap. Week 1 to 2. Once you're past the first few days, something more fundamental begins to shift. Your body starts transitioning from storing fat to burning it, and it all starts with insulin. Eggs contain almost zero carbohydrates. 2 large eggs contain roughly 1 gram. When you replace a carbohydrate-heavy breakfast, cereal, toast, oatmeal, pastry, with eggs, your morning insulin response stays low, and insulin is the decisive hormone in fat metabolism. When insulin is elevated, your body is in storage mode. Fat cannot be released from cells and used as fuel when insulin is high. When insulin stays low, your body gains access to stored fat and begins burning it. By eating eggs every morning for 1 to 2 weeks, you're keeping insulin suppressed during the critical morning metabolic window every single day. And something more durable begins to happen. Your insulin sensitivity starts to improve. Your cells become more responsive to the insulin that is produced. Your body stops defaulting to storage mode and starts defaulting to fat oxidation. This is one of the most important metabolic improvements a human body can make, and eggs are triggering it passively, at breakfast, for about 30 cents per egg. Weeks 3 through 8. By now, the fat loss becomes visible. And this is where the research gets striking. In one of the most cited studies on this subject, 2 groups of overweight adults were placed on identical calorie-restricted diets, same total calories, same macronutrient targets. The only difference was breakfast. One group ate eggs, the other ate a bagel with the same caloric value. After 8 weeks, the egg group lost 65% more total body weight, and their waist circumference shrank 34% more than the bagel group. Same calories, completely different result. A large part of why comes down to a nutrient most people have never thought about. It's called choline. Your liver needs choline to process fat, to pull it from your body's stored fat tissue, package it correctly, and send it into the bloodstream to be burned as fuel. Without sufficient choline, fat accumulates in the liver instead. It stalls, it builds up. That process is one of the primary drivers behind non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which is now one of the fastest-growing metabolic conditions globally. Eggs are the single richest dietary source of choline available. 4 whole eggs provide approximately 590 milligrams, exceeding the full daily recommended intake for both men and women. But there is a critical detail here. Almost all of the choline in an egg lives in the yolk. If you are eating egg whites only, you are getting almost none of it. You are also missing the healthy fats, the fat-soluble vitamins, and the precise nutrient combination that makes eggs metabolically powerful. The whole egg is the tool. The white alone is not. Months 2 through 3. Here is where the timeline takes a turn that surprises most people. There are 2 distinct types of body fat, and they are not equal. The first is subcutaneous fat, the layer beneath your skin that you can physically feel and see. The second is visceral fat, the fat packed around your internal organs, your liver, your kidneys, your intestines. You cannot see it or feel it, but visceral fat is the type most strongly correlated with cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, insulin resistance, and systemic inflammation. It is the dangerous fat, and eggs attack it specifically. In the University of Alabama study referenced earlier, the egg group didn't just lose more total body fat, they lost 22.8% of their visceral fat. The non-egg group lost 1%. That is a more than 20-to-1 difference in the most medically significant type of fat in the body in 8 weeks. For men in particular, something else is happening during this window. Testosterone levels begin to improve. The cholesterol in egg yolks is the raw material your body uses to synthesize testosterone. When you eat whole eggs consistently, you are supplying that raw material reliably. In a controlled 12-week study where men consumed either whole eggs or an equivalent amount of protein from egg whites, the whole egg group experienced a 250% larger increase in testosterone, along with greater lean muscle gains and lower body fat levels. This matters beyond performance. Higher testosterone supports muscle preservation, and the more muscle you carry, the higher your resting metabolic rate, the number of calories your body burns around the clock, including while you sleep. Months 3 through 6. This is where eggs do something that most dietary interventions cannot achieve simultaneously. You are losing fat and building muscle at the same time. That is called body recomposition, and it is the most efficient possible outcome of a fat loss strategy. Most conventional diets produce weight loss that includes a significant loss of lean muscle tissue. Eggs work differently. They are exceptionally rich in leucine, the specific amino acid that acts as the primary trigger for muscle protein synthesis. Leucine signals your body to repair and build muscle tissue, and whole eggs trigger a 40% greater muscle protein synthesis response than the equivalent protein from egg whites alone. The additional fats, micronutrients, and cofactors in the yolk amplify the anabolic signal in a way that isolated protein cannot replicate. So while you are in a caloric deficit and losing fat, your body is simultaneously rebuilding and preserving muscle underneath. Now let's talk strategy. Here is the practical framework for getting the maximum fat loss effect from eggs. 3 to 4 whole eggs per day is the evidence-based threshold. This is the dose used in the major fat loss studies. It gets you to the choline level your liver needs to process fat efficiently. It delivers enough protein to trigger the full satiety hormone response. 2 eggs is often not sufficient, depending on body size, to reach these thresholds. Aim for 3 minimum. Eat them in the morning. The hunger-suppressing effect of eggs is most powerful when they replace a carbohydrate-heavy breakfast. The goal is to keep insulin low during the metabolic window and let it stay low. Eggs accomplish this better than almost anything else you can eat at that meal. Pair eggs with fiber-rich vegetables, spinach, mushrooms, peppers, onions, broccoli, any of these work. Protein combined with fat combined with fiber creates the strongest possible satiety signal your body can produce. A 3-egg scramble with sautéed spinach and onions is one of the most metabolically effective fat loss meals you can construct from inexpensive, widely available ingredients. Replace, don't add. The goal is to swap your current breakfast for eggs, not to add eggs on top of what you're already eating.
Adding 3 eggs to a full carbohydrate breakfast adds calories without replacing the insulin spike. The swap is the mechanism.
Cook them correctly. This matters more than most people think. The rule is cook the white fully, protect the yolk. Raw egg white protein is only about 51% bioavailable. Your body can only absorb roughly half of it. Cooking the white raises bioavailability to over 90%. The yolk is the opposite. The less heat applied to the yolk, the more of its nutrients survive intact. High heat on the yolk generates oxidized cholesterol, oxysterols, which is the form of cholesterol associated with arterial damage. Soft-boiled, poached, and over-easy preserve the most nutritional value. Scrambled on low heat is acceptable. Hard-boiled is a practical option for meal prep, despite some nutrient loss. Fried is fine if you keep the heat low and use butter, avocado oil, or extra virgin olive oil. Avoid vegetable oils and seed oils entirely. They oxidize at cooking temperatures and add the exact type of inflammatory fat you are trying to reduce. On the question of which eggs to buy, this is worth understanding clearly because the nutritional gap between the bottom and top of the market is significant. Conventional caged eggs have the lowest omega-3 content, the lowest vitamin D, and the palest yolks. They still deliver protein, choline, and satiety, so if budget is the constraint, they are still a substantial upgrade over a carbohydrate breakfast. Cage-free means the hens can move within the building but are still eating commercial grain. Nutritionally, they are nearly identical to conventional. Free-range means outdoor access is technically available, but the standards are loose, and many hens never use it. Organic means no pesticide-treated feed, no antibiotics, and required outdoor access. You get modest improvements in vitamin A, E, and omega-3 levels. Pasture-raised is where the nutritional difference becomes significant. Hens living on real pasture, eating bugs and plants as their natural diet, produce eggs with up to 4 times the omega-3 content, 4 times the vitamin D, and over 3 times the vitamin E of conventional eggs. The yolk will be visibly darker, a deep amber orange rather than pale yellow. That color is the nutrients. Look for certified humane pasture-raised on the carton. The certification matters because the term pasture-raised alone is not federally regulated. And if you have access to a local farm or farmer's market selling fresh pasture-raised eggs, those are the gold standard. Highest nutrient density, freshest product, no supply chain degradation. Now for the question that has followed eggs for decades: cholesterol. If you've been told that eating eggs raises your cholesterol and that this leads to heart disease, here's what the science actually shows. Your liver produces approximately 80% of the cholesterol in your bloodstream independently of what you eat. When you consume dietary cholesterol from eggs or any other source, your liver detects it and compensates by producing less. The system self-regulates. For roughly 70% of people, eating eggs has no meaningful effect on blood cholesterol levels. For approximately 30%, called hyperresponders, eggs do affect LDL, but here is the detail that changes the entire conversation. They raise large, buoyant LDL particles. These are the metabolically benign type. The small, dense LDL particles, the ones that oxidize, penetrate arterial walls, and drive cardiovascular damage, those do not increase. Major health organizations globally have removed caps on dietary cholesterol because the evidence simply does not support the original concern. The real driver of dangerous LDL has consistently been oxidized fats, processed carbohydrates, and ultra-processed foods, not eggs. Eggs were blamed for what was happening on the rest of the plate. 3 to 4 whole eggs per day is safe for the vast majority of people, and based on everything covered here, it may be the single most powerful breakfast change available to someone trying to reduce body fat, improve metabolic health, and do it without a complicated protocol. This is Body Science Daily. See you in the next one.